Hello, good morning, and welcome to this very first session of the Beginner's Yoga series. My name is Sienna. I'm a yoga teacher and holistic health coach. I teach, obviously, yoga and other spiritual modalities. And my mission is just to really help people connect with themselves, connect with the nature that exists within, so that we're able to make better decisions that are going to help us take better care of the earth, take better care of each other, take better care of ourselves in general. So I'm super excited to be here and just to break down the basics for you as far as how to kind of get into the poses, how to do them in a way that makes sense to you, and then how to link those together as well. By the end of this 5 week long series, you're going to be able to have 2 full sequences. One of them will be for energizing, strengthening, stretching. I think of that as more so like your sun, your sunshine flow, that bright, energizing flow. You're going to have the second sequence, which is going to be your moon flow. This is going to help you to relax, help you to rest, get some good deep sleep. So you've got your sun and your moon. You've got your, brightness, your darkness, masculine, feminine, all of that balance. So I'm going to take a couple of steps back and let me know if you can hear me because I want to make sure that you can hear me. I'm going to step back to the mat. And the first pose that we're going to get into today is just called mountain pose. Super duper simple. Let me adjust this camera really quick. Boop. Okay, mountain pose, so basic. You're just standing up straight up and down. You want to measure that the feet are about hips distance apart. So there's a couple of different ways that you can measure the distance between the feet. One way is to bend your knees, come all the way down, put your fists together, and then place the fists in between your feet. So my feet are a little bit too wide. I'm going to bring my feet a little closer so that they're just hugging my 2 fists. And that's just about how wide your hips are. Another way you could do it is by bending the knees, jumping up, and then landing. Imagine when you jump up that your legs just kind of dangle and kind of like adjust right into their natural alignment. And that's how you'll get a nice, good distance as well. I want to point out as well that when you're doing your yoga poses and as you're learning these, just be gentle with yourself. It's totally okay if your hip distance apart is a little bit wider, if that feels better for you today or if it feels better for you in general, no big deal. If it feels better for you to have the feet together and it's easy for you to balance that way, do that. I don't want you to overthink this. Remember that this practice is for you so that you can start to connect with yourself. And like I said, just know how to take really good care of yourself, energize, strengthen your body, and at the same time, be able to relax and soften your body. So with that said, mountain pose. Feet are about hips distance apart. You want to think of rolling your shoulders back, keeping them down away from your ears. So you want this nice long neck, okay? Hands are going to be down by your sides with the palms face forward. I'm going to turn to the side just so that you can see. I don't want you, and I'm exaggerating, we don't want you standing out like this. So often it's kind of just like this instinct when we think about facing forward, standing up tall. It's like, okay, I'm standing up tall. You almost look up and lift the chest because you're trying to move towards that direction. I really want you to keep that focus more on the inside versus what it looks like on the outside. And just think about how it feels to really be straight up and down and have that nice long spine and long neck all the way down. You want your spine to be long all the way from the crown of your head to your tailbone. So what that looks like again from the side, instead of being like, okay, yes, here I am standing up nice and tall, instead I want you to tuck your chin down towards your neck. That will bring you a little bit more length back here. Roll the shoulders down, but also keep the rib cage in. So we're not kind of lifting up, showing everything that there is to see. You know what I mean? There are back bends that we'll get into a little bit later, but right now, just think of chin in, back of the neck long, ribs are down, and then at the same time, the pelvis ends up kind of tucking under a little bit too. And you hope that you're able to just feel this alignment happen. You want to feel like your head is stacked right over your shoulders are stacked right over your hips, and everything is just in this straight line. Something to kind of help you visualize and think about this inside your body is imagine that you're standing like in a super, super narrow, tight, like hallway or corridor, which I don't know. I don't know that this has ever happened to me or that this ever will happen to you. But imagine that there's like a wall in front of you and behind you, kind of squishing you. And so you have to just kind of scoop everything together so you have this nice long line. Okay? Again, I don't want you to be overthinking this. Just know that that's the direction that you're going and try and send your energy in that direction. So, mountain pose is the first one. Hands face forward, palms open. Imagine like it's a super bright, warm, sunny day. The sun's beaming down on you, and your hands are just absorbing the warmth and the energy from the sun. Okay? Pose number 1, mountain pose. In Sanskrit, this pose is called Tadasana. Tadasana. Okay, so we're here, pose number 1. Now, try and keep everything the same, and I want you to reach your arms up over your head. Palms are facing one another. And then bring them back down. So deep breath in and deep breath out. Okay, I'm going to turn to the side so that you can see as well. When the arms are lifting, and I'll move away from the wall a little bit. The arms are lifting, be careful to avoid this swaying in the back, okay? Instead, keep the legs strong. Imagine that your feet are really pushing down into the ground, like you're sinking the heels and the balls of your feet both evenly, like really actively pressing into the ground, and then reach. No change in the spine, no change in the spine, okay? And again, if there is a little bit of a change in the spine, not a big deal. Just want you to be cognizant and aware of kind of the goal here and how you want to be shifting your energy, because yoga is an energetic practice. Just as much as we're moving our bodies and it's physical and we will get our workout on, we'll get a little sweaty, we'll build some muscle tone. But what's really happening is you are manipulating the energy that's around you and the energy that is within you. So it's important that we're able to use our body as the vessel that's going to contain that energy in a very specific type of way in order to achieve a certain type of feeling. All right. So back to mountain pose. Feet hips distance apart. You're active through the legs, actively pushing down into the floor. Palms face forward. Nice long spine. Deep breath in. Deep breath out. Let's do that 3 times. 1 breath for 1 movement. So inhale, reach up. Exhale, reach down. Inhale, reach up. Exhale, reach down. Last one. Inhale, reach up. And exhale down. Okay, awesome. Next pose we're going to move into is called a forward fold. Super simple. You're just as the pose is called, folding forward to reach down towards your toes. So let's talk about the alignment for this pose as well. Remember, when you're in your Tadasana, your mountain pose, you're keeping everything as straight as possible. Okay, you've got this nice, beautiful long spine. And when you fold forwards, again, just like when you reach the arms up, like I said, or when you first are like trying to stand up tall, there's that tendency to kind of lift the heart up because you're like, oh, okay, I'm sending my focus upward. That same tendency happens when you go into a forward fold. There's a tendency to lead with the chest, and this arching in the back happens. Instead, what I want you to focus on is keeping this nice long alignment in the lower back and in the neck, honestly through the whole spine. But it helps, for me, it's really helpful to focus on engaging in my lower abs and keeping my lower back nice and flat. So as we're doing this, and let's bring hands to the hips just to make it easy for this example. Keep everything as tight as possible, and then you hinge forwards from the hips. So see how this is a little bit different than doing this and leading with the chest. You're able to get a lot lower. It's going to be a lot easier and more gentle on your hamstrings as well if you're not tilting the pelvis up. If you keep everything nice and flat, and you're here. Now, reaching the hands down as far as they may go, grabbing onto the legs, and then let your upper spine start to round as you bring the forehead towards the legs, as far as it will go without forcing it. Again, you want this to be feeling really good. You want to be feeling comfortable, so let it be easy. Don't overthink this. So let's move from one pose to the next, okay? We're going to try this. I'm going to have you reach your arms up as you inhale, and then bring the hands together to touch this time. As we bring the hands down, it's like you're pulling them through a prayer position. Then we'll put them on the hips and continue to exhale. Release the hands wherever they may land, okay? So just to demonstrate one more time before we do it together, and I'll do it to the side and I'll do it forwards. So inhale, reach your arms up. Exhale, hands come down all the way to the hips. We'll pause here for one more deep inhale. And then exhale, fold. Keeping the spine as straight as you can. Releasing the arms when you get there and rounding through the upper back just to complete the fold. One more demo facing forwards. Inhale, the arms come up. Exhale, hands come down. Hands all the way to the hips. Deep inhale. And then fold. I'm keeping my chin tucked as much as possible. It's a little tricky because I'm talking. And hands come down, head comes all the way down. Okay? Now, if it feels more comfortable for you this morning and as you're still warming up your body, you can absolutely take a gentle bend in your knees as you're forward folding. So that would look like inhale up, arms come down, inhale, gently bend the knees, or maybe you bend them a lot, whatever. It depends on how the backs of your legs are feeling, your knees, your ankles, your lower back. There's so many things to consider. So just do what feels good, bend it a little bit, and then focus on keeping that back nice and straight, and then reach the hands as far as they'll go and drop the head. All right. And as I'm talking, feel free to jump into the comments. For those of you who are here live with me this morning, let me know if you have any questions. Let me know if everything's making sense, or if you need me to slow down, go back, go over something one more time. I'm more than happy to do that for you. Just communicate with me and I can help you, okay? So let's try this from mountain pose. Arms come up, hands come down, forward fold, all right? I'm gonna face to the side and let's get it. So inhale, deep breath in. Exhale, hands come down to the hips. Deep breath in, pause here. And forward fold, nice and slow. Exhale. Releasing the hands and the chin. Now go ahead and bend your knees and slowly roll yourself back up, just to keep it easy and make it feel safe on your back. Let's do that 2 more times together. Deep breath in, arms reach up, palms touch. Exhale, drag it down. Hands to the hips. Inhale. Exhale, fold. Bend the knees even lower and roll yourself up. One more time. Inhale. And exhale. Inhale. And fold. Bending the knees and rolling yourself up to standing. One more thing that I thought of in the forward fold that I want you to be kind of just aware of, cognizant of. Look at my hips when I fold over. So I mentioned already that there's this tendency to want to lift the chest or lead with the chest. You're kind of leading with the heart, okay? So there's also a tendency to lean yourself back when you do that. So as you're leaning with the chest, a lot of times what you'll see, and if you go and take a class, like a studio class, and you're seeing the other people in the room, sometimes you'll see people lead with the chest, and then that ends up making their hips push so far back that they're so far away from the heels, and that makes it a little bit of a different and more challenging stretch. What you really want to do is continue with that concept of keeping everything stacked right on top of each other. So the difference is keeping the hips exactly where they are instead of letting them rock back. So you want to imagine that your legs can stay in this long line instead of being diagonal, all right? So let's move on, shall we? I'm going to demonstrate really quick, and you're welcome to come along with me for this. We're already in our forward fold. The next step is to lift up halfway and again, find your flat back. So I like to bring the hands onto the shins. You could also bring them onto the thighs. You just want to avoid pressing back on the knees because their knees aren't supposed to go that way. And as you're doing this, this is what I like to call the eye of your elbow, right where the crease is, right where like there's like all these little wrinkles. I call that the eye of your elbow. So as you're doing your halfway lift and you have the hands on the shins or wherever, you want the rotation of the arms to be such that the eyes of the elbows are pointing forwards. So you're not doing this, it's not like kind of hunkering down. Instead, you want to keep the chest open by rotating the arms this way. It's the same rotation as your mountain pose. Eyes of the elbows are facing out. So then, okay, I'll demo. Arms up, come down, forward fold, lift up for your halfway lift, and you still have this opening across the chest and shoulders. The arms are rotated outwards. And that will help you to keep the spine nice and long and lengthened, okay? Long and lengthened. I feel like that was redundant, but you get me. All right, let's try it together. I'm going to face forward with you. Well, I guess let me back up a little bit. Sorry about that. So from your forward fold, as you know, first thing you do, you keep your back as flat as possible. You fold all the way as far as you can go, and then allow your back to kind of round so you can get this nice stretch through your upper back. Now, we're going to come back to the flat back position. So all you really do is just lift up, bring the hands onto the legs. And this is a really good place for you to start thinking about and feeling into your body. Right away, for me too, I notice I start to lift the hips up. As soon as I go from here and then I lift up, I start to drop my belly a little bit. So this is a good place to be like, okay, that's what I'm doing. Tuck the belly in towards your spine. Bring the chin in towards the throat. Lengthen. Use the hands pressing against the legs to give you that leverage and help you keep the spine nice and long. It's just a really great opportunity to kind of pause in the middle of your flow and become aware of what you're doing and how you're positioning your own body, okay? So let's try this together. You ready? We're going to go. Deep breath in, arms up. Exhale, hands come down. Hands come to the hips. Deep inhale. And exhale, forward fold. All the way down, hands come to the floor or onto the legs. Then inhale, halfway lift, flat back. Give yourself a moment to adjust. Then one more time as you exhale, forward fold. Now we'll bend the knees and roll back up to standing, all right? I hope that's going well for you. I feel so good. It's so nice to just like keep stretching, and this is kind of how you start warming up the muscles, allow things to get softer, allow things to just be like a little bit more malleable, you know what I mean? And then later throughout the day, you'll notice you might be a little bit sore, but it's like, it's a nice kind of sore. You're like, I did that. I feel good. All right, so let's try it. We're going to take it 3 times, all the way with arms up, come down, forward fold, half lift, forward fold again, roll up to standing. That's 1, okay? And then we'll keep on doing that. Time check. Okay, we got about 10 more minutes. I'm going to step off of my mat because I'm too close to the wall here. All right, so hands down, nice long spine. Ready, and inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale, halfway lift. Eyes of the elbows are forwards. Exhale, forward fold. Bend the knees and roll yourself back up. Inhale, reach the arms. Exhale, hands come down to the hips. Inhale to pause. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, fold. And roll yourself up. Inhale, arms reach, last time. Exhale, hands down to the hips. Inhale here, get nice and tall. And exhale, fold. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, fold. And bend the knees and roll yourself up. Going right back into your mountain pose. Feeling good, feeling warm. We're going to move on. One of the most important parts here is your flow. So we've already got the flow between the mountain pose, arms up. I know you understand that it's one breath going with one movement. So think inhale up, exhale down, inhale up, exhale down. It's going to be like that no matter what. No matter what the pose is, no matter what the shapes are, it's one breath, one movement. Switch movements, it's another breath. Okay? So your vinyasa flow. And just to rewind as well, this style of yoga that I'm sharing with you today is called vinyasa. All right? So vinyasa just means to flow. More or less, it loosely translates to flow. Okay? So that is where we use the breath to help guide us. Like I said, one breath, one movement from pose to pose. That's the flow. So the most key vinyasa sequence that you'll find in many vinyasa classes is you begin in a plank pose, that upper push-up pose. You lower yourself halfway down. Then you're going to lift into a back bend and then press back into downward facing dog. We're going to get into downward facing dog tomorrow, but I'm going to show you not tomorrow, next week, but I'm going to show you the beginning part, that plank pose, that lowering halfway down, and the lifting up for your back bend, okay? So how do I want to do this? Let me adjust my camera so that you're able to see me when I go to the floor. Okay. Move this forwards a little bit. Alrighty. So we just did arms up, forward fold, halfway lift. So typically from your halfway lift, you want to be forwards. If you're using a yoga mat, you want to be all the way towards the front. It doesn't really matter if you're using one or not. From your halfway lift, then you bend the knees to bring the hands down to the mat, and you're going to step yourself backwards. So that's why you want to be at the front of the mat or just in the front of your space, wherever you are. You want there to be space behind you so you can step your feet backwards. I don't really care if you use a yoga mat or not. I don't think that's super important. But for example, if you're practicing outside or you're practicing on like concrete or something, it is just nice to have the cushion, but it's not totally necessary. So it's definitely not something you need to like go out and pay for right now, you know. So again, standing up, top of the mat. We already did the whole flow. We're here in halfway lift. Bring the hands down to the mat. Step yourself back. Your upper plank pose. I'll call this plank. I'll call this upper push-up, whatever. And I think most of us kind of understand how to do this pose. You want the fingers to be spread wide. The palms are just like right underneath your shoulders. And just the same way in your mountain pose, how I was saying, you want to think about pressing your heels down into the mat and like really keeping the legs active. You want to do that same thing with your arms when you're in plank pose. So you're not like letting yourself like sink into it like, oh my God, this is so hard, I'm so tired. Instead, use your breath, your inhale breath in particular, to help you keep pushing the floor away. Imagine like you're literally pushing something away from you, like you're using the strength of your arms to like dig the hands deeper into the floor, into the earth, okay? Just kind of have that visual with you. I don't know if you've heard that Chuck Norris joke where it's like when he does push-ups, what is it? It's something like he doesn't do push-ups, he does earth downs. So I want you to think about that too. We're not pushing ourselves up, but instead we're pushing the earth down, all right? So allow that to activate you to keep your shoulders open in the back. And I'll show you an example. So it's the difference between being kind of like, you know, sinking in the shoulders, and instead you're using your hands, you're actively pressing away, okay? So from here, you're going to keep your elbows really close to your body, and on an exhale breath, bend the elbows just halfway, okay? Woo. It's a little bit hard to just hover there, but so you'll go inhale in your plank pose, exhale, lower halfway. That's called chaturanga, okay? Once you get to that halfway point, so we're here. Deep breath in. Push them out away. Exhale, lower halfway. Then on the next inhale, reach your chest up, forwards, and through. You're going to roll to the tops of the feet. Let the legs just be long behind you. But notice how my knees and my thighs are lifted up off the mat. So it's not this. There's no sinking. I'm really using my arms to pull me and lift me. So when you're in that pose, that big back bend with the legs long, that's called your upward facing dog, okay? You really want to be actively pushing the earth down equally as much so as you would do in your plank pose, okay? So the arms are like this. Plank here, deep inhale. Exhale, lower halfway. This is your chaturanga. And you want the elbows in. Then when you move into upward dog, the arms basically go like this because you're pushing. And what you're doing is you're sliding your whole body forwards. That's that flow. Deep breath in. So let's do this. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. And it is this time a lift through the chest. Okay? You want to do your best to keep the lower back comfortable. So really, really lean on using the strength of your arms to keep you lifted off of the mat so that you don't end up dumping into your lower back, because that can feel really uncomfortable and make this just like not a good time. Okay? So coming back to your halfway lift. So we just did arms up, arms down, deep breath, forward fold, hands down. You're going to halfway lift, hold one more time. Halfway lift again, lengthening through the spine. Then bend the knees as much as you need to plant the hands and step yourself back. Inhale here. Exhale, lower halfway. Inhale, lift up. And then for the purposes of this session today, as you exhale, lower your knees down. Bring your hips back onto your heels. Keep the hands more or less where they are. And then plant the forehead down. Just to give your back a little break. And this pose that I'm doing right now is called child's pose. You may be familiar with this one already. It's really comfortable. A nice place to just like rest. Take a couple of deep breaths. If you're interested, later on a different day, I can show you some modifications to make this child's pose even more comfortable for you. Sometimes it can be a little awkward if you're having discomfort in the knees or in the hips or whatever. And there's a lot of different variations of this pose to make it work for you and your body and how you feel that day. And I'm more than happy to share that with you as well. Okay, so let's go through that plank to chaturanga to upward facing dog to child's pose. We'll do it 2 times. So when you're in your child's pose, all you're going to do is lift yourself back up, tuck the toes, and come into plank to do it a second time, okay? So let's begin in a plank pose. I put lotion on right before this. My hands are so slippery. Okay, so fingers are spread wide. Energetically, too, you want to feel like you're pulling the thumbs towards each other. That will just keep your arms very active, okay? So you're here, plank pose. Let's get into it. Arms are active. We're pressing the earth down. You're Chuck Norris today. Deep breath in. Deep breath out. Lower halfway. Inhale, lift up. Then drop the knees. Exhale. Hips come back. Forward comes down. Forehead comes down, excuse me. Now inhale to come back up. And exhale as you get set up. Inhale in your plank pose. Exhale, lower halfway down, chaturanga, elbows in. Inhale, lift up. Coming to the tops of your feet. Exhale, lower the knees. Hips come back towards the heels. Nice big stretch through the sides of the body, the arms, your lower back. And coming forward. Okay? Now let's put it all together from the beginning. And that is your sun salutation. They call this sun A. There's a couple of different variations of the sun salutation, but this is the most foundational one that most of the other ones kind of build off of this sequence right here. So, I'm all tired. Let's go from the beginning. Now remember, you want to start out in the front of your space. What this is called the top of your yoga mat if you're using one, because we're going to step the feet back in a minute. Okay, so coming into your mountain pose, shoulders are back, chest is open, spine is long, palms face forward. I'm going to take a couple of breaths here. And inhale, arms up. Exhale, hands come down to the hips. Inhale here. Exhale, fold. Inhale, halfway lift. Remember, elbows pointing forwards. Exhale, fold. One more half lift. Inhale. Then bending the knees. Plant the hands. Step your feet back. Plank pose. Pausing here. Deep breath in. Exhale, lower halfway. Inhale, lift the chest up. Drop your knees. Exhale, come back for your child's pose. Rolling through. You're going to tuck your toes, and here's how we'll transition. Just lift the knees up and tiptoe yourself to the front of the mat. Bringing the feet up to the hands. From here, halfway lift. Forward fold. Bend your knees and roll up to standing. Let's do that whole thing 2 more times. Inhale, arms up. Exhale, hands to the hips. Inhale. Exhale, fold. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, fold. Inhale, halfway lift. Plant the hands, step back, pause. Inhale here. Exhale, halfway down. Inhale, lift. Exhale, child's pose. Inhale, coming forwards, tucking the toes, making your way to the top of the mat. Inhale for halfway lift. Exhale, fold. And bend your knees and roll up to standing. We'll do this one more time. Deep breath in, arms reach up. Exhale, hands come down. Inhale, pause. And exhale, fold. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, forward fold. One more time, halfway lift. And exhale, step yourself back for a plank. Pausing here for the deep breath in. Exhale, lower halfway. Inhale, lift up. Drop the knees. Exhale, child's pose. Coming forwards, tucking your toes, lifting the knees, stepping to the top of the mat. Halfway lift. And exhale, fold. Bending through the knees. Roll yourself up to standing. I want you to reach your arms out to the sides. Give yourself a big hug. You did amazing, I'm sure, and I'm so happy for you. That is it, okay? We're going to get into downward facing dog next week, and we'll move into sun salutation B, which adds in just a couple of new poses for you. We'll be able to link this whole thing together, and we're almost done with your energizing yoga sequence, okay? So again, let me know if you have any questions. My name is Sienna. You can find me on Instagram at Coach by Sienna. Holler at me. Would love to hear from you. Would love to practice with you even more. Private sessions are also always available as well. If you're needing help with some modifications, like I briefly mentioned, in your child's pose, there's a couple of modifications that you can use that just make it feel a little bit more accessible depending on what's happening in your body that day or that week or that month. You know what I mean? Your body is always changing. Things are never the same. Um, but you can always move and manipulate the energy in a certain type of way that makes you feel really good. Okay. So, again, thank you so much for being here with me today, and I'll see you next week.